All right, we are live. Sorry it took so long, guys. Technical difficulties as usual. Tiffany, good to see you.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, and sorry, guys, that's definitely my fault.
It happens to me every time too. If I hadn't had my stuff set up today earlier just because I was home, then I would have had the same issue. It just every single time I plug my headphones in, the mic will stop working or it'll go to the laptop camera, big camera. It's always an issue. So no
yeah,
worries.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm sitting here in my dining room, right? So, we're trying to
Yeah.
use this for two different purposes, and you're trying to get everything out. Where's my cable? Where's this? What am I doing? So,
Yeah. Yep.
hey, I'm not a pro like you. I don't have like full studio and everything
I
ready to
sh-
go all the time. So,
I need to give you the behind the scenes. It's so far from unprofessional around here, man. I've got stuff scattered everywhere, and it's always that one little cable I can't find. It's whatever specialty cable, like the one from the computer to the camera. Like I can't ever find it. But
yep, literally, that's what I was looking. I was like, where's my podcast to my computer, my podcast mixer to my computer to use my mic and my headphones. So,
right on. Well, it looks like we got about 19, 20 people on. Had a few people on before we ever really got started there. Guys, I guess since we're 7 or 8 minutes in, we'll go ahead and get into it. So I think most of you guys know Tiffany. If you don't know Tiffany, she's been in the whiskey industry for quite some time. Her handle is Bourbon at Tiffany's on Instagram. Most known with me for her work with some of the distilleries that she's introduced me to that I've become so fond of, and obviously her barrel picks that allowed me to go on a barrel pick with her last year, and ever since then, she and I have been chasing whiskey together. So I guess it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago she and I were talking, and in some of her endeavors that we'll get into and talk about, she's had a lot of people asking her just on a daily basis, kind of like, what are your thoughts on, where the whiskey industry stands right now? And, how does that relate to XYZ? And so she just hit me up and said, I'd like to just kind of maybe do a live stream and kind of answer everybody at one time, because I'm getting the same question over and over. And I'm sure there's other people that would be interested in hearing about that. So, tonight we wanted to just take some time. I'll ask Tiffany a few questions. You guys feel free to ask as many questions as you want. I'll put those up on the screen, and we'll just pick her brain a little bit about what she's been seeing. So, Tiffany, how you been?
good, but I do think you should be super honest, right? Like this was me driving. I was driving from Charleston to Florence on a Friday night to a Saturday night, and I was in a mood, right? Like we get in those moods sometimes. I'm very honest about that, and you are the guy that I call when I want to get things off my chest, right? Like you and I vent to each other. There's only a handful of people in life that I just completely open up to, but you've become, close like a brother, right? And
Right
we
on.
have that relationship, and we call each other if we're frustrated, if we're happy. Like we talk about a lot of different things. And I had a long drive. I just finished a tasting and was going to do a tasting the next day. So I was driving to my parents' house, and we just started talking and spitballing and just talking about what's going on in the industry. And obviously, I've been on the road a lot the last 2 months. I've been all over the place doing a lot of sales and support work for Broad Branch and a lot of retail support for Highwire, some stuff for Alvin Langston. So doing a lot of work with a lot of different brands. Um, and you see a lot when you're in these stores every single day, So you see the store owners, the managers, the customers. You see the good, the bad, the ugly, but you're able to have a lot of conversations. You're able to have a lot of really honest conversations. And then I told you my phone has been blowing up, people asking me what's going on, what am I seeing, trends. So I just thought it'd be a good time to just sit down and talk to people, because I don't have any vested interest in any of the brands per se, right? So we saw Brown Forman earnings reports drop today. I think Kenny and Ryan do a great job on their podcast discussing a lot of this stuff, but sometimes it just gets lost in translation. And I think we lose the the connection to the local store owner and the connection to the small distilleries, and trying to figure out how we can have an impact on all these things. And you and I talked about it earlier today, just the simple ability to have that impact. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to sit down with you and just talk and see what everybody was thinking, and how they were feeling, and what we can do to make a difference, because I do think collectively as a whole, like, we can make a difference. And I think what people like you and I say matter, because people need to make sure that we're sending the right message, people are hearing the right message, and that stuff isn't getting lost.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And you know, there's been so much of the knee jerk reaction and people thinking that the whole whiskey industry is just going to come to a crash. I, for one, don't quite believe that, but I do think that there are some things that need to be addressed, like you said. And, you know, obviously pricing on things got really crazy around COVID. And, you know, we're finally starting to see some of that stuff settle out. You've got a lot of NDPs out here. You've got a lot of great whiskey that we're sitting on in the market. What, 16, 17 million barrels of whiskey supposedly in the market. And those things are time sensitive, so they can't stay in that barrel forever. That's got to go somewhere. So I think there's a need for NDPs. I'm not saying that, but there's just a lot of different brands on the shelf. There's a lot to kind of like keep up with. And then you've got so many single barrel picks and a lot of the shelfer stuff being passed over. And everybody's chasing the next big thing. Right. So I think that, you know, a lot of what you've said resonates with me. And I think that's exactly what you need to share, you know, with everybody tonight, is just some of the things that you've seen in some of your endeavors. And I know recently you spent some time going around and tasting through some barrels at MGP and some other places. So you've had some insight in talking with some of those other people in the industry. So you definitely have talked to a lot more people than I have and gotten a lot of other takes. And I think MGP, for one, should have a huge perspective on just the NDP side of it, like I was talking about.
Yeah. So, you know, I work with several different brands, right? So technically I have my own business and I do some consulting work and some sales and support work. So like I said, I've been doing a lot of stuff in South Carolina, specifically for Broad Branch. And so I see the message on the screen right now that says we need a brutally honest Tiffany's pick soon. So don't worry, guys. Brandon and I are always scheming. There are collabs going on, stuff that we're working on for you. So, but yeah, so it's interesting when you get to, you know, you can't go to MGP, right? So the public cannot go to MGP. So to get to go visit a historic site like that and screen through some barrels for projects for next year. So one of the brands that I work with is Alvin Langston, and they're based here in South Carolina. They do all their bottling down in Hilton Head. And I have been talking to the owner for a while about, let's go pre-screen a bunch of barrels so we can see what's out there, find stuff that is totally different. And that's the big thing for me. So I don't want, you've probably, Brandon, you probably feel like I'm your wife, right? Because you hear me say the same stuff all the time and you tolerate me, and I appreciate that. But
You're helpful to me, though. I need a lot of it. So
we've talked about it a lot, man. There's so much average whiskey on the shelf right now. And I think most of us have too much to drink average whiskey at this point. And so that was the purpose of this trip. So we took the guys that bottle and distill down at Hilton Head. We took them with us to have some extra pallets. And we spent 2 days in Indiana and Kentucky screening through things. There were specific mash bills that I was looking for because I do want something different and unique. I don't want the same stuff that's on the shelf. And I'm really looking for an opportunity to do things a little bit different. We're going to do some blending stuff next year. But we're just really looking for excellent barrels and profiles. And that's what we did. You know, some of the stuff I can't talk about because of NDAs and everything. So there are some barrel broker warehouses that we were at where we were tapping into barrels and pulling things out that I'll have available for picks next year. I do have a 20-year American light whiskey coming out, probably end of January, early February, just depending on TTB labels and things like that. But I'm just looking for different stuff. I'm not looking for more of the same. I'm not looking for average. And because there are so many barrels, like you mentioned, there's so much whiskey out there right now. And a lot of what is out there, we as consumers have gotten fatigued and frustrated because we do see the same stuff on the shelf and we see it at different price points. And I'm not going to call out any brands, but when we see the same mash bills or similar ages and we see them at drastically different price points from $70 to $220, and we're sitting here asking ourselves why. And so that's kind of my biggest thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I love when there is a special barrel, right? Like if you got something that you feel like, hey, this is a better barrel than usual from this profile, from this mash bill, this is really exceptional. And I'd love for people to like comment right now and let me know what their opinion is, because it's different when you're a consumer and a fan versus on the business side of it, right? Where you're working actively in the business and building this stuff out. I don't think it's okay to charge more for that exceptional barrel. So I'm not saying maybe you don't mark it up a few bucks if you have to. You still have to make money. This is not a nonprofit industry, right? So we are in the business to make money.
For
But
sure.
at the same time, like, I don't think we should be marking barrels up because we think this is an exceptional barrel or because this is a hazmat barrel. If you've got 8-year MGP, what is the difference in, mine versus the 200 other brands that are using 8-year MGP? So if I've got an 8-year MGP at 70, 80, 90 bucks cast strength, somebody else has got it at 130, 150, 200 bucks. As a consumer, which one are you going to reach for first, So and when we
Right.
think about the price fatigue and everybody being frustrated with how prices have gone up like crazy. So when we look at what consumers are wanting, we all just want to drink really good whiskey. And we all want it to be priced fairly. And so I don't know what some of the play is for some of these folks, like I don't know what their play is from their brand. I don't know what they bought these barrels at. And I think that's the thing that makes it tricky sometimes is if you're also paying because you're an NDP, but you're building a distillery or you're distilling and you've got all these other people on payroll, there's a price that comes along with all of those things. And I think we can see that with the brands, that are sitting on the shelves. But I also think that every single day I watch people walk past incredible whiskey on the shelf. Okay. I tell people if I had to choose one bourbon to drink every day for the rest of my life and it was available on the shelf, 1910 or 1920, every single time. I think Old Forester makes fantastic products. Same thing with Jack barrel proof stuff. Like, I think those are great products. And I think people walk past them every day because they walk into the store looking for something that they think they should get because they're looking for a trophy and they're not drinking for the sake of like enjoying the actual liquid that's in the bottle.
True.
So there are so many brands doing a great job and not overcharging consumers. But I would love to, and I'm trying to read the messages on the screen at the same time that I'm talking to you, but we know how much whiskey is out there, right? We know how much is actively on the shelves. And, being South Carolina, we get things a little bit later. I think you probably feel like this with Alabama too, being a control state.
Yeah.
We wait and wait for these brands to get in, and then they get on the shelves and we buy them up. The shelves are empty. They restock them and now they're sitting, right? And I think about that with, in South Carolina specifically, like New Riff, Holiday, like these are brands that we waited forever to get to South Carolina. And now the next wave of brands has come in that's coming in. And so we've got Dark Arts and we've got ASW, and those are brands that South Carolina didn't have before. So those are coming off the shelf. But then what's going to be the next wave of brands that comes in? And then that other stuff starts sitting again. And so, I own a private tasting business. And my favorite thing is to feature some like unique bottles. So this one bottle, you've been to Conviction, right? So like you've met those guys up there. They do a fantastic job. They sent me this bottle that's distillery only, and it absolutely floored me. And I featured it in a 6-bottle tasting lineup with Master's Keep Beacon, Old Fitzgerald 9-year, Woodford Sweet Oak, so Caleb's Crossing. There was 6 bottles in the lineup. I can't think of what the 6th one was right now. But this one literally came in first. It and Caleb's Crossing came in first and second place. This is like a $50 to $60 bottle. So you've got all the guys sitting at the table and they're looking at the price on Master's Keep Beacon and they're looking at the price on Old Fitzgerald. And they're like, I would buy 2 of these before I would buy those other bottles because this is an exceptional bottle. So, everything that I have right here sitting on the table is all smaller brands. There is an NDP because I do work with them, but these are all, bottles with the exception of this particular Broad Branch. These are very affordable bottles. And these are bottles that I think people should be seeking out because it's exceptional whiskey. And you can buy 2 of them instead of buying a $150 bottle that may be a similar age, And you don't need an influencer to tell you to go buy this bottle. Like if it's under $70, you should be giving it a try. Like, period. Like, grab a bottle and give it a try. That's not a price point that we can't experiment with.
I think for me, with some of the smaller brands, not all of them, but I think there is a lack of confidence in consistency for me, because like having gone to Conviction per se, that's a great example. We tasted through a ton, and they had some stuff that would absolutely blow your mind. And then they had some stuff that had me scratching my head, like just, and a lot of them, I think maybe they have so many different things going on with different mash bills and different projects that they've tried. But you do have some brands that have come along with consistency. I think Broad Branch is one of them. Detling's one. Crittenden's one. They're very consistent in what they're putting out. I'm not saying that everything they put out is a banger, but if you grab back when Seth had Bottle and Bond, or if you grab a Broad Branch Bottle and Bond, or if you grab a Crittenden Bottle and Bond, they're going to be consistent across the board. But I think for me, that's one thing that drives me to the bigger brand on the grabbing consistently. But I think the thing that a lot of us are running to are these single barrel picks and finding the next amazing barrel pick, right? And a lot of times, like you say, people just hype those things up, and we all do. I don't mean to hype anything up. I get excited about them, but that's hyping it, right? When I get excited about a bottle, other people get excited about it as well.
But
and
I think
whether
that's
they think
okay,
it's
right? Getting excited is okay.
yeah,
So,
but I mean, hype is a thing though, right? And I feel
well,
like
we talked about it
whiskey
earlier,
is,
FOMO, right? Like, it's the whole like chasing, like, oh man, you got that bottle and I didn't, right?
yep.
So
Yeah,
you
and
get
you said that was a
aspect.
big reason that you kind of slowed down on like
I did. Yeah,
participating in whiskey groups, because
I
there's
did.
so much flashing up there and you're getting so much FOMO. It's like you
You
spend so
do,
much
and
time after that.
you do, and you feel like that you've got to chase that. And I got to the point that I didn't want to put my energy into that. Especially, I mean, you know me, like I'm not huge on the heritage brands, right? Like if you could see the four cabinets around me right now, like they are slam full of craft brands. And it's not that I don't like some of the heritage brands. There's some stuff I really love, but the stuff that I really, really like, right? Like Wild Turkey 12, Evan Williams 12, like that stuff is not necessarily easily obtainable. It's not necessarily in a great price point. And we talked about this earlier. I'm not a drinker, like I'm a
Right.
taster. And so it's, if I had all six of these bottles tonight, I would have incredibly small pours, and it would be for the sake of tasting, not drinking. But the
Agreed.
one thing that you brought up that I want to talk about is single barrels. So if you could think back 3 years ago, and I want everybody to kind of think back where the market was 3 years ago, and every single time like a Russell's pick would drop or an Old Forester pick would drop at our local stores, we were all like rushing out to get them before they sold out. They would always sell out really quickly, especially like Four Roses picks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, in my opinion, with barrel picks is the way that we as consumers get with them, because we will have one that is just absolutely exceptional, knock your socks off. And then the next one, in our opinion, wasn't as good as the last one. And then we don't buy the next one or the next one
That
because
happens.
it didn't live up to it. Like we were having this conversation a couple weeks ago with Michelle up at Heritage. Somebody had ordered pizza from a new little pizza place around the corner. It wasn't anything fancy. It was like elevated Pizza Hut, right? But bad pizza is still pizza, right? Like pizza's still good. Like a single barrel that wasn't as good as the last one is still probably really freaking good. And
Yep.
I'm pretty harsh with single barrels. If I don't know the people picking, if I don't have a palate that aligns with their palates, I'm not buying as many single barrels. And I don't think that there's as much good single barrel whiskey out there as people think that there is. And that's because I've tasted a whole lot of it, right? Like that was the whole
Yeah.
purpose of screening through all of that stuff in the trip earlier this month. I think people don't realize like very few single barrels should be single barrels, like I think
Agreed. A lot of
single
stuff needs to
barrels,
be batched out.
yeah, they should be. And I think
Mhm.
that the craze happened because everybody wanted to do barrel picks, right? So like when it used to just be that stores could do picks and then clubs were doing picks and, restaurants and all these people, you've got all these different, now pretty much, I mean, anybody can go pick a barrel these days. Like it's
Yeah.
not anything, it's not as hard to do because there is so much out there and barrel pick programs became so popular. And so there's way too many. My complaint with the heritage guys is they all drop at the same time. If you've got Russell's picks dropping 2 or 3 times a year, if everybody in the state picked, they drop at this all across exact same time.
Right.
Same thing with Jack picks, same thing with Old Forester picks. Well, then we as consumer, you can only buy so much, right? So if I've got an influencer's pick that I want to buy who did an Old Forester pick, if I've got a local store that did an Old Forester pick, now people are turning around and dropping Russell's picks. Now you've picked a Detling, I've picked Holiday. We're flooded with picks, and I think that that's also a big problem when we go back to talking about consumer fatigue. Is there's so much out there, and there is now so many bourbon clubs. And I mean, you get it too, right? Like from an influencer standpoint, like you're doing your own picks, but you have other picks that you want and store picks and other things that you desire. There's only so much room on the shelf. Like I can't put any more shelves in my dining room. Like, I mean, you've been here, so like there's no more walls to put shelves. So I have so much that I've been giving away that I bought in the last couple of years that early on, I think I thought I was opening a liquor store and I felt like I had to have one of everything. And in reality, like I haven't touched those bottles in probably 2 years. And I think we start to figure out what our palate is. And then from there, we start to hone in and we pick our favorite brands. You're obviously a big Detling guy. We should have made a drinking game to see every time we say Detling, like somebody has to take a drink. That actually probably would have been a lot of fun. We should do that on the next one.
They would be loaded. That's funny.
Yeah, they should. But, I've got 12 different Detlings. I've got 40 different high wire expressions. Like, I mean, there's some brands that I really, really love and am passionate about. And I would rather drink that stuff, like I would rather go after that stuff than go chase these allocated bottles that people overpay for. Me, I am staunch about not overpaying for anything. And I finally got my first BTAC this year and I got it at MSRP and I have patiently waited. And that's my rule. Cause if I'm overpaying for stuff, that's less bottles that I can buy. And so
that's the one you took the crotch shot with and sold on secondary right out the parking lot?
Yeah. Yep. You know me. That's my jam. Yeah. That's me. It's actually, I still haven't opened it because I had a little head cold and it's the George T. Stag. So
I have a sample of it. It is freaking phenomenal.
I've heard it's great. It's literally still sitting in the cabinet, not opened yet. I've got to get it open, but we both had a little head cold there for a couple of weeks and I was like, I'm not opening it.
Yeah, no need to waste something good like that. Something that wouldn't hurt my feelings, and a couple of buddies of mine and I, and Brandon Green's one of them, we've started splitting bottles, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings to start seeing whiskey come out in 375s as opposed to 750s. Just with as much whiskey as we have, it would be so much easier to go through it. It wouldn't hurt my feelings to see it in 200 ml bottles. I like the little samples that a lot of the brands send us because, like you said, I get to taste it and move on to the next one. And that's where I'm starting to learn, like, I don't necessarily need quote unquote bottles of whiskey. I just want to taste. And the ones that light me up, that are phenomenal, those are the ones that I'm wanting to grab. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Like on the special releases, I absolutely love the smaller bottles. Like I think these are both 375s right here with this. This is Holiday's Ancient Cave and this is distillery only. And then this is Wood Hat, but these are both smaller bottles. And I'm with you. Like, I don't mind these at all. Cause I don't mind them because I would love more people to get the opportunity to get that bottle. That's where I come from. I'm probably not like the average person at all when it comes to stuff like that. I would rather more people get a chance instead of me having a 750. And I mean, you know how it is. If you've got a 750 of a special release, like how long before you finish it? Like that's not a bottle that you get out even once a month most of the time. Right. But even looking up at my cabinet right now, I've got some Frey Ranch special releases in 375s, some Cedar Ridge special releases in 375s. There's an Old Forester that's like super old, like 30, 40 years old. And it's in a small, I don't even know what size it technically is. Like I don't think it's a 375, but it's somewhere between a 200 and a 375. But I think that would be a lot of fun personally to have some of the stuff like that. Yeah.
And I think it's cool, even if the brands don't do it, I think it's fun, like between, us and the community, just sharing bottles, right? We buy a bottle and we split it. Brandon and I did that for the very first time on a Boulder 24, but back to the comment on the screen with 375s being blasphemous. my portion of that 375 went pretty fast. I mean, I'm hanging on to just a drop of it. So I did regret not having a full 750 of it, but at least I got to try it. I had no clue what it was like, and I only had half the cost in the bottle. And
Yeah.
now I know I can go chase it, but it does make it difficult when it's those very hard to get bottles. You split the 375 and it's gone. And like you and I share so many samples with people, and you do your tastings. Like I'll have people come over for shares. Whiskey goes pretty quick in that regard, but I don't personally go through it that quick. And we both have enough to last us even in doing all the tasting and bottle shares the rest of our lives. But I just thought it was a cool concept. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
And you
I
mentioned
love it.
Frey Ranch. They Kobe and them sent me an uncut, which I think I'd given you an uncut that I had because I'd never opened it. And
Well,
so they
you
sent
gave
me
me a
one.
barrel pick, and it was apparently, now I want to be clear. You were like, "Hey, this is your birthday present."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Michelle saw it in my bag when I was traveling, and she was like, this is like my favorite barrel pick ever from Frey Ranch. It's my favorite bottle." And it was already
Oh
open.
wow.
And she was like, "What do I have to do to get this?" And I was like, I mean, I guess give me another Frey Ranch, but like that one was phenomenal. You need to tell her to send you a sample of it so you can taste that one, because that one is up
Okay.
there with a pick that I had that Marianne Eves did from 2023 that was a Frey Ranch, and that was my whiskey of the year in 2023, and
Oh
this
wow.
one competes. So yeah, you got to tell Michelle to give you a sample of that one.
Well, they sent an uncut, and then they sent a quad malt, and I like both of them, but that quad malt is special good. Like that is fantastic whiskey. I was very happy to review that one. I wish I knew where I put it.
Well, the Harvester series, like I was lucky enough to get both Harvesters this year. And then I've got some of their single grain series. So they do like a lot of really unique stuff. And they're, again, one of my favorite smaller distilleries. Not that I don't think they're technically small at all, but just the fact that they handle every single process from growing it to malting it to distilling it to aging it. I think they do a fantastic job. It's my goal in 2026 to get out there, but hopefully we can maybe we'll go together.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Family
I'm
trip.
gonna interview them in January. I forget the date again, but next time I come home, and hopefully after that, I can try to line up a pick for the group if the group decides that's something that they might like. And I'd like to go out there the latter part of this year, maybe third or fourth quarter.
So I see a lot of different opinions over there in the comments about the 375. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people think it's a good idea. Some people say it won't last. I mean,
It is. It's so sad when a bottle goes away, right? I mean, it
it
breaks
is,
my
but if
heart.
you had to choose to only have a little bit or have none, I would choose to at least get a little bit, like personally.
And for me, like you're talking about going out and grabbing bottles you've never tried. I feel like it's a more affordable way to find out if you want that bottle. Then you can go get the 750. But obviously, if you know you love it, you don't want to buy a 375 of it.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, like there's some great stuff that we absolutely love, and like I said, I can be okay with having a little less if that means other people can get a shot at it. Like I'm okay. Like you said, we can't drink. I couldn't drink everything in this room in the next 20 years if I tried. Like it's just
There's
not
no way.
possible. No.
No, not at all.
Well, all right. So what all do we want to talk about? I know we had some
Well,
specific stuff.
so I know that you started your line. You're doing the American whiskey pick this year, right? Well, in
Mhm.
26, and then you're helping some guys, and you're going around with them. You guys have seen, and a lot of this you can't really speak to, but back to the amount of whiskey that's on the market and the affordability of it. There's some really, 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 really affordable barrels of whiskey out there to be gotten right now, and back to those price points. What drives these people to have such high prices on these NDPs that they're going and sourcing these barrels? And I get the different stories. Like some people go in and buy a whole rung of barrels, and other people taste every individual one, and that's the one that they grab. So they feel like they have more labor involved in it. But I don't see where that drives the percentage of difference in price. I do think personally I will pay a little bit more for a special bottle. But I mean, if we're doing 5, 10x, that's just crazy. And FOMO will make you do that sometimes, but it's just not worth it. So I don't think that any special barrel deserves that. But I know there's so many moving parts to a business, right? So there's no
Yeah.
telling what some of these NDPs are doing and what their overhead is and who their investors are and what they have to shell out to get this thing done. And are they working in the most efficient manner, the way they're sourcing bottles and corks and the way they do their distribution? So does it deserve that much money, or are they just racking up the profits, which I think some may be, but not all are. But with the amount of barrels that you've seen at some of these crazy affordable prices, wouldn't it lend to prices going down on whiskey and thus being able to get whiskey a lot more affordable? And us as consumers should kind of be a little bit more knowledgeable on the fact that these guys are being able to get the product a lot cheaper. We shouldn't have to pay quite as much for it as we were paying.
You said it, not me, right? So, since you don't work in the industry, I'm gonna let you say all that, right? You just did the heavy lifting for me, which I appreciate. But I'm gonna give you an example, right? Like I said, we're not here to throw anybody under the bus. We're just here to have like open dialogue and see what everybody thinks, see what their pain points are, frustrations, what they want more of. So, the trip that I just came back from in Kentucky and Indiana was with Alvin Langston. So, if you walk in a South Carolina store right now, which is the only place we're distroed besides our website online, we actually have some 7 and some 8-year single barrel cask strengths sitting on the shelf at the exact same price. And it's because we got the same price on the 8-year as we did the 7-year. We already had the 7-year on the shelf that was from earlier in the year, but then we got some 8-year barrels at the same price. But we didn't jack the price up because of that, right? Like technically, you guys want to pay $10 per year, so we should have bumped the price up $10, but we didn't. Now, not everybody's going to do that, and not everybody's going to run their business that way. But I actually sent a picture, and I was like, "Hey, just want to make sure this isn't a mistake. You know, like we've got 7 and 8 years side by side on the shelf at the same price. No, we got a good deal. It was the same price. We're not charging any more for it. How many other people are going to do that? Not a lot, right? Like we're already
Right.
we see that every day. We all see that. I'm not going to call it any brand specifically.
No,
I've been
absolutely
very
not.
clear about that, but there is some stuff that blows my mind when I walk in stores.
Me too.
And I think about, because I know what juice is in the bottle, right? Like I know what's Barton, I know what's MGP, I know what's Bardstown, and I'm looking at it differently because I know what this stuff costs. Now, I don't technically know what they paid for their barrels, right? So when they bought their particular barrels, they could have paid much higher prices. You and I talked about this. You and I had conference calls with other Brandon about this back in April because we were looking at barrel prices and looking on doing some projects and what prices were in April compared to now. It's crazy different. And so if we think about that to 2024 effect, barrel prices were crazy different in 2024, right? So I don't know when these people bought their barrels and what they're charging. But as consumers, the one thing that I would challenge people to do is look for the brands that aren't overcharging for that stuff, and give those brands a shot because they're trying to be fair to you as the consumer and they're not raking you over the coals. And they could be because we've got a 10-year Barton on the shelf most of the time for between 80 and $90. And I know what other people are charging for 10-year Barton, and it's not 80 and $90, is it?
No. And that there's some people that, and I'm not reading all the comments, but somebody's probably going to call me a hypocrite before long because, I supported Detling in his price increase on his special releases. And, for me on that's his product. He generated that. He created that from scratch. Like he didn't buy that from anybody else and put it in a bottle. So there's something a little different there for me. And my whole thing is in that particular instance, if you don't feel that particular brand deserves that price, don't pay it. If you don't think that GTS deserves $700 or $800 on secondary, don't go on secondary and buy one, right? But there's a lot of people that do because to them, for whatever reason, it's worth it. But with non-distilling stuff, I know that there's a lot that goes on with some of them, right? They're buying the whiskey, they're finishing it at their places, they're buying other barrels, and they're rebarreling it. They're doing some finish processes, like they're doing some things that add value to the whiskey, in my opinion. And so that deserves a increase in revenue. I
Well,
don't
and
know if it
also
actually drives.
we will call some people out for the good things, right? So exactly what you're saying when we think about short barrel, right? And what Clinton and those guys do down there, they're doing a ton of special stuff like that, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
those extra barrels cost money, buying the honey to put in those barrels to do all the bees knees releases. Like, I don't think anybody has any idea how much honey you have to buy to coat those barrels and do those projects. And
Right.
I think that they have always done a great job with their pricing, like I've never felt like short barrel was overpriced at all.
I think what Brandon and I have struggled with in the pricing world is, there's certain brands, like you said, that will get a particular juice and another brand likewise gets this very similar juice, and you drink them side by side and you feel like they're they're about the same, but yet the price points are just way different on them. Obviously, there again, I think the uniqueness and all the moving parts of a business are different from one business to the next. Some people have they have the money that they don't really need to just generate a ton of profit. And then you have some people that come into this thing that sold out everything they have and they're scraping back, right? So they've got to do something to build this back, and they're only able to sell so much whiskey in a year. So I get all that. I wish I just further understood it, because what I don't want as a consumer is to feel like I'm being drug over the coals just for the sake of somebody says that it's a special barrel or a bottle, right?
Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, everybody that's on here, like, I mean, you and I are looking at these listed names that are over here making comments. These are people that we've known for a long time. These are people that we're good friends with. And we have very honest conversations with these people. And I tell people, you can ask me anything. Like, if you ask me, I will answer. Now, I'm not going to come spout off a bunch of stuff to 99% of people, but if you ask me, I'll answer. And there are so many people that are also completely unrealistic with their expectations of what prices should be. I get it that we all want these prices to be a particular price. But at the end of the day, like you said earlier, every single aspect, people underestimate an empty bottle cost, the glass cost, the topper cost, the labels, the printing. Something as simple as who designs your labels, who spends the time to submit these labels to TTB and fight with them every time they come back and say, no, you've got to change this. No, you've got to change this. And it's like you said, it's what are the other things that go into it? And there's so much that the consumers have no idea what goes into this and all the little parts and pieces that do cost money. And there is a reason that we see brands shutting down. There's a reason that we see distilleries shutting down, that we see breweries shutting down. And it's because people cannot afford to stay in this business either, right? Like, this is
Right.
not a cheap business. It reminds me of something my mother-in-law had said sometime about farming and the generations that it takes before you become profitable in farming. And we talk about that with distilleries and with brands. Like, you don't typically make money your first year. You might not make money your first couple of years. It takes time to make money in this business, and you have to spend a lot of money to make money in this business. And I don't think that we give the good guys enough grace. And I think that we all, I joke about it all the time because I'm getting old and cranky. Like, I'd love to have gas and grocery prices from the late 90s when I graduated high school, but that's just not realistic. And I don't
My
think
daughter and I talked about that today.
oh man, and I don't think it's realistic to, think that we're going to see the bourbon prices that we saw even just a couple of years ago. I always go back to Russell's 10-year sitting on the shelf in Kentucky stores for $27, like 2.5 years ago. And I mean, I don't know what it is where you are, but in South Carolina, most places it's $50,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's literally double. And I mean, we will blame Campari, right? We will call out certain brands, portfolios. Like, we don't mind to call the big guys out. We will blame them for some of their price issues. But be realistic with this other stuff. Like, some of what people are asking for, even if you shop around town, people not understanding the difference. You talk about understanding business. If you don't understand why the guy in the public shopping center has a different price than a guy in a Food Lion shopping center or in an IGA shopping center, and understanding the differences that these store owners pay just in rent, like, there's so many pieces that go into it that people just don't stop and appreciate. If you like shopping at this store and you want to do business with this person because they do a good job and they do a good job on pricing, make sure you're buying. We talked about this earlier, like just buy standard freaking bottles from people, go in and buy some bourbon creams, go in and buy your standard, Brown Forman products. Like those are good products that are on the shelf. Like they're great for cocktails. They're great to give as gifts, but support your stores. There's a lot of ways that you can support besides just buying their barrel picks.
Correct. Yeah, no, they need it in all aspects, right? And they sell everything there. And it's so tough here in Alabama. And I mean, I'll say that all day long. And I don't know, maybe I'll get crucified for it, but I just really despise the way the stores have to operate here in Alabama. Their price points are so high. And for the same, let's just say, Black Label Jack Daniels that you find on the shelf, you're going to pay more for it at Spot 280 than you pay for it across the street at the ABC store. To me, that just doesn't make sense. I feel like they should be able to compete with ABC, but they're not. It's almost like a monopoly against ABC where they run it. And as a consumer, what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to go support Spot and pay an extra $15 a bottle just because they had to pay an extra $15 to get it on their shelf. Only those of us that are really close to them would do that. So it's tough. And so there's so much to the prices of whiskey that it's just difficult to make a general statement on it. But, talking about people that do it right and don't really kill you on the price, Ryan and those guys, this triple mash right here, I don't know if you've tried that, Tiffany. That's probably one of the most fantastic products I've had from Pursuit yet.
I have not got to try it yet. I was actually just talking to Tim. My buddy Tim works for him. And we were actually talking today about triple mash. He just did one of their blends. So we don't have Pursuit in South Carolina. So it is something that I have to pick up. But I'll tell you, because the comments on the screen. So Eddie's up here, and Eddie's one of my buddies. We've been friends for a long time. And he's a different perspective too, because he's in the accounting side of the world. And I think he looks at things, a little different, probably more like a business owner. Store owners will tell you that whiskey sales don't keep the doors open, right? So I spend a lot of time in liquor stores, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, because I do a lot of retail tasting support. And the amount of vodka and the amount of tequila that is purchased and the amount of Canadian whiskey that is purchased, I don't mind talking crap to consumers. Like, I have fun with it when I'm in the store. And if I see people buying tequila, I ask them, like, well, drink some American products, like pick something on the shelf that was made in America. And you could tell that they've never even once like thought about that. And I'm not dogging tequila, and I'm not dogging any other spirit or anything like that. But you and I, we love bourbon, right? We love whiskey. We love, American made products. There are so many things that you could pick up on the shelf every single day that would make a difference in some small business's life. And it's probably a better product, but like I said, pick up other things when you're going in. Don't hesitate when you go to get a store pick to grab a $30 bottle of something. It could be a Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. It could be a 1792 product, right? Like there's a lot of things that help your store owners. And if you're not sure what it is and you just want to spend some money with them, ask them, hey, what would make a difference if I bought one of these products a month? Like, how would this make a difference? And we talk about this because the collective aspect, right? So we talk about the community of people that is watching this. Like, I know, looking on the screen right now, I can tell you the Alabama people, the North Carolina people, the South Carolina people, the Virginia people. Like, I see the names on here, and it's the collective we. Like, it's us choosing together that we want to make a difference. And it looks like Matt is in Tennessee. So, I mean, we've got people from all over that are watching this, and it takes us having conversations just like this with our friends and our clubs and our groups and, patrons or whatever it is that we have access to. But it takes all of us to help make a difference. And, in general, anytime you see a business go out of business, I don't care if it's your local mechanic, if it's a grocery store, if it's a restaurant, if it's a distillery, whatever the case may be, that's never good for anybody, right? No. And we know that the economy is tight. Like, we know we're all squeezed a little bit more, but just figuring out ways that we can support each other, because we do want all these brands to stay in business. We do want these brands to make it to the other side of this. And we also want our big heritage brands, I mean, they are what built all of this, right? Like
Agreed.
they are what laid the foundation for all these other brands to even be here. And so we still want those to be here as well.
I agree. And like you were saying, these store owners have to purchase so much what I'm going to call crap stuff. That when I say crap, I mean things that will sit on the shelf for years. They have to buy so much of that just to get a barrel pick, just to get one George T. Stagg for the year, just to get any type of little allocated whiskey. And in some cases, the allocation bottle that they're getting for buying all this cases and cases of stuff that's going to sit on the shelf really doesn't even warrant the price that you would think that they would end up selling it for. So then what they do is they build the price up on that particular bottle because, well, I know I'm going to sell that. And so I'm going to help cover some of my loss on all of that stuff over there collecting dust by selling this one bottle. And if we were to do, like you're saying, all of us collectively in the bourbon community go into our local stores and be like, hey, how much $17.92, how much whatever do I need to buy throughout the year from you to help make a difference? And if the next guy and the next lady and the next guy does that, then hopefully come allocation time, they remember you and they can, move a bottle to you a lot more affordably because you've helped cover some of those costs on those dusties. But man, some of it's going to be tough because what I'm calling crap, a lot of us aren't going to buy, right? But there are ways that we can help. And I definitely think that we should make that effort. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, you've been to Clyde's here in town, so you've shopped and talked with Tina on a quite regular basis, and I'm sure she normally would be watching tonight, but I doubt she is. She had a unexpected tragedy in her family last week, so she has definitely been on my heart a lot. But something that she does a fantastic job of, she has a little clearance corner, So she has a little clearance corner back there that she'll mark stuff down at cost or sometimes below cost. And, if you go in to get a store pick, look at the clearance corner, look at the promo aisle. A lot of that stuff, we talked about it earlier today. It makes fantastic cocktails, right? Like if you're going to have a party or you need like a housewarming gift or a host gift or something, than some of the guys on here think about necessarily like buying stuff as gifts per se, but there's so much that we could do. And I mean, she's had some great deals. Like I've picked up a lot of ryes, for $20 on that section. And I don't hesitate to, give some housewarming gifts and tell people like, hey, these are good for cocktails. This makes a great old fashioned. But a lot of stores are doing a better job with stuff like that. There's some great stores around here that do a good job with that stuff.
I'm trying to remember what she had on the shelf that day you took me there and I did the little video for them, but she had a couple bottles back there that I was really like contemplating buying because they were on that clearance shelf and they were great prices. But that definitely does make a difference. There's this is saying here in Delaware, the retailers are allowed to sample out their store picks, right? So I think that a store that can taste out or have someone like yourself that comes through and taste out products is the absolute best way to move whiskey. If I come in the store and I taste that bottle and I really like it, I'm going to be hard pressed to leave there without buying that bottle, as opposed to the store owner just telling me that, hey, that's a great bottle. Or you go in Total Wine and they say, hey, here's what we're supporting. Here's what we think's good. Like if I can't try it, I'm a little less likely to buy it. So I hate that it's such a big deal with stores being able to taste out, but I know from
and it's a legal thing, right? Like that's the biggest challenge. Every state's different. The laws are different,
and they can easily overserve. And if they're not held to a standard, like somebody like yourself comes in there is held to a standard, then it could get reckless, I guess.
Not just that, but even the people that do follow the rules, even in South Carolina now are taking some heat. And a lot of times you're just trying to figure out, what to do, how to approach things. But in a perfect world, we'd love to be able to take something to a store and say, here, let a customer taste that. I'm doing your favorite thing right now. I'm adding water to whiskey. That one has some really good flavor, but it's got a little heat on it that I would like to back off, so the rest of those flavors will come out.
scorch the palate, the tongue, the esophagus. That's a great segue for us talking about health a little bit, since you fuss
Yeah.
at me so much about drinking hazmat whiskey all the time.
I mean, I don't. Do you want to tell people like you officially have like two wives? Like not in the Mormon sense, right? But like half the time I'm your sister, half the time I'm your wife. Like,
And that's typical here in Alabama. Heather was my
mm,
cousin before we got married, so
yeah, yeah. You know, I was trying to remember exactly what you said to me when we were on the phone because I was
today.
on a rant about it. No, it was when I was driving back from Charleston, and we were talking about people drinking too much and not enjoying this in moderation and not being realistic about understanding that this is a toxin, right? Like we're not acting like alcohol is healthy. Now it's medicinal, right? Like I will die on that one. It is medicinal, but I'm trying to remember if you told me that what I said was contradictory, basically, right? Because you were like, "Come on now, like you work in the industry, like."
Yeah, you were. And the way I was hearing it that night, it basically was like, well, Tiffany, from your standpoint, it sounds like we shouldn't even drink whiskey. And you're like, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is whiskey is a negative. What are we doing positively to offset that so that we stay
Right.
balanced? But
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
absolutely.
I was just like a little kid that I just still wanted my candy. So
Oh yeah, and I mean I get it too, right? Like I mean we've all been through our different phases and stuff, and I've had a year in this hobby, if you will, where I was having too many pours too many times a week, and the biggest thing for me, and y'all know me, I'm super honest about everything, but like it was affecting my sleep. And I didn't realize that that's what was affecting my sleep. Like I didn't know what was affecting my sleep, but it was, if I was having alcohol too late, it was having a terrible effect on my sleep. And it's a little bit different as a woman, like than what you may go through and how it may affect you. So I started regulating how late I would have anything. And I think I told you, I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a pour tonight. I'm actually checking my clock right now because I do have to get up and go to work tomorrow. And I would much rather have a good night's sleep than have 2 or 3 more pours of bourbon. Not that I wouldn't love to, taste through and talk about this stuff all night, but I do need a good night's sleep. And there is a balance to this. Alcohol is incredibly disruptive to your sleep. And the same thing with, making sure that I eat something before I start drinking, but also making sure that there's a balance to how much I'm having. We talk about this all the time in the industry. Like you taste so much. You have bottles that people send you to review. You're screening stuff for work. You're always tasting things. Last night we were cooking dinner and I had 3 bottles that I needed to open. A, I needed to let them breathe for an upcoming tasting, but B, I needed to taste through them and see what the profiles were, see what I was getting and see how they fit. But I'm just having, tiny little pours and we're tasting and we're talking about it. What are you getting? What are you tasting? What are you smelling compared to this one? But there's a balance, whether we're working out to offset our pours, right? Like there's a lot of people that talk about earn your pours. What are we doing to offset those things? And I know that January is coming up and I know dry January is a big deal for a lot of people. And I want to be very clear. I would never, ever discourage anyone from not doing dry January. For me personally, I don't need a dry January because I don't drink enough to need a dry January. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have times throughout the year, depending on what I had going on, where like I came back from that trip where I screened 40 barrels in 2 days. I didn't want to have anything for at least a week. I wanted to give my body that space and that time, to decompress and do what it needed to do. And the travel included with it, and you're eating foods you don't normally eat. And so we've talked about this, like taking all of these things more seriously. And, one of the bourbon clubs that I'm in, it's the very first bourbon club I technically joined, was the Bourbon Thieves. And there's several people on here that are bourbon thieves. And one of the things that they've added in our Discord is kind of like an accountability group for fitness. And, the last couple of years, we've had a lot of guys that have lost a ton of weight and gotten really healthy. And I'm super proud of those guys. Like it's not easy to lose 100, 150 pounds. And it's not easy to stick with it. Not everybody can be a bodybuilder like you once were, right? Like,
and then totally fall off for whiskey. Like, I don't like every time I look back on those pictures, I'm like, God, why did I ever stop? I spent 5 years getting to the point of like, that was a good starting point where I stopped. Like, 2 or 3 years now later down the road, could have been a lot further along, but the whole influencer thing got me, and I just spent a lot of time with 24/7 I spend with this thing, right? So
Yeah. And the travel,
now,
right? Like just being on the road
yeah,
too. Think about when you're busting it and
and
you're going to all these different distilleries.
and eating garbage. Heather will be like, "Where you at now?" Just stopped to get another 99-cent heart attack, which we know that's a $14 heart attack now, but
Yeah.
in McDonald's, man, it's everywhere. So, that it's crazy, but those are things that are driven by what I'm doing that I've got to be mindful of. But, until you started fussing at me so much about, dude, do you ever sleep? Dude, like, have you been to the gym? Because when we first met, you made the comment, it was like, I looked at you and like, well, there's a guy that doesn't miss the gym. And now you look at me and be like, there's a guy that doesn't miss a barbecue, so it's like, and you didn't say the second part, I did, but like you fussed at me so much about all the things that I'm doing that aren't healthy as well as the time that I take away from my family to do the thing. Right. So very thankful and all that, but it has gotten me to start thinking, and, really and truly, alcohol has to be a foreign object to the body. The body has to look at that once it goes in, like, what the heck's going on? What do I have to do to combat this, to neutralize the body back to where it was before? And talking with a buddy at work about the liver, I had no clue. I understand the liver filters, but I figured things just passed through and processed, and the liver just continued doing its job. He has a liver condition, and he's an engineer offshore, very intelligent guy. And he's telling me, there again, I still don't know, that a liver can really only filter so much in its lifetime, and it's done. So if you don't take care of that liver and balance what you filter through it, then you're in turn taking a lot years off your life. I didn't know that, but you were talking about the high proof whiskey with, the mouth, the tongue, the esophagus, the stomach, like, that's got to be terrible on the body. And the 14 days that I'm home, I'm trying to get through everything that I missed the 2 weeks that I was gone, that shows up here like Christmas. And I try to get through as much of that before I go back, because it's going to be another 2 weeks. And next thing you know, I've got brands saying, hey, did you ever get around to XYZ? Or a friend saying, hey, those samples I sent you, did you ever try them? And I'm like, I'm just drowning in it. Can't get it all done. And, back to what you said about the sampling that you did and taking off like a week, just from doing the last whiskey of the year set, which was a lot of high proof whiskeys. And then Matt Harris came over and we were tasting through some Driftless Glens and a few others. I didn't drink for 3 or 4 days after that, not one sip, because one, I went back the next day to have a sip, palate completely smoked, like everything tastes like garbage. But two, I just knew the body needed a break. And I remembered you making a comment that you were in a seminar and Fred Minnick was talking about the process of drinking too much and how it affects your palate, how you're not accurately able to judge a whiskey. So, I mean, all these things make sense, and it adds up. And I'm thankful for you consistently and continuously just banging me over the head saying, hey, man, you need to just kind of open your eyes, step back, and make some of these healthier moves, right?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I'm like, man, we get on here, we talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever tonight. What's the one thing people are going to take away from this? Tiffany is a bitch. All she does is like yell at Brandon.
Complete bitch. Y'all don't even know.
Oh, everything. You're like, yeah, you're yelling at me about this. You're yelling at me about this. Yep, you're right.
If it wasn't for you and Heather, I wouldn't be kept in check, because I'm a dog off a leash, man. I'm just running wild out here. So I'm thankful for both of y'all. It's not fun. There again, the analogy of telling the kid no for candy, like, we know it's going to rot their teeth out and drive their blood sugar up, and it's unhealthy. But that's all they want, and they're just going to pout when they can't have it. So,
yeah, I'm going to tell you, like, it's, even right now, like, if you've seen me messing with my phone, I'm like, Joanna, please turn off this overhead light. Because it's getting late, like this is too many bright lights for me right now. I need to get to a point where I start to chill out and wind down. And I'm just at that age where I have to do those things. But the one thing that, I mean, if nothing else, I hope that all these amazing people, there's so many names that I see over here on the screen tonight. And I appreciate all these people so much, you know, and I know you do too as well. But I hope that they understand like the power that we all have together. So as we're sitting here talking about our health, you know, like if it's somebody that needs an accountability partner, like if it's somebody that needs support in some way or the other, like I hope they know that they can reach out to either one of us, that they can reach out to anybody's name that they see on here, because these are good people on here. These are the people that are on here tonight are people that care, you know. These are people that have bought our picks, they've supported both of us, you know, they have been to events, they have done anything in the world that they can to support both of us, and turn, you know, we want to support them as well. We're not up here saying these things because we don't give a crap. We're saying these things because we care so much, you know. We care about the industry as a whole. Like we care about the distilleries, the store owners, and we care about these people watching. Like we care about their health, you know. Like I said, I wouldn't dare tell anybody don't go do dry January if you need a dry January. Right. And if you do need one, then I would encourage you to make sure that you don't feel like that you need another one, because you do introduce more moderation, you know, into your life. And same thing, like I give this shit every year now, but like the whole tasting a bourbon every day for Bourbon Heritage Month in September, and now we got to have sober October. Like just pick and choose, you know, like you don't have to do it because social media says to do it. And you don't have to post a picture every single night of a glass of you drinking something, because you don't need to drink something every single night, you know.
Unless you're brutally honest, I need pictures in the group every night, all night.
Every night. Yep. There's enough people there they can rotate through, that they can take turns. Tag team there.
No, it is. That's true. And, you know, for me, I take it for granted some, because I am gone for 2 weeks and 0 alcohol for 2 weeks, but then I'm wide open alcohol only for 2 weeks. Right. So that's not good, because that's on and off. That's not moderation by any sense. But no, totally humbled by all these people that tuned in tonight and the support that they've given us. Like it's been great. And I thank you for bringing this up and wanting to chat about it. You started the whole thing in our Facebook group and in the Patreon, made me start, you know, kind of like earn your bourbon kind of thing. And people have just kind of taken that and run with it. And I've kind of fallen to the back burner on the holidays, but I'm gonna get with it. But I'm thankful to see that, like, people just support most of anything that we put out there. So I'm hoping that we're helpful to them, and really appreciate them.
Well, I know that there's still I see plenty of comments coming through. So if you want, what questions do you have? Like, what do you want to ask people? What do you want to see? I keep seeing questions about when you and I are doing a pick together. I don't know if anybody knows this. We've never technically done like a pick together, but we are planning some collaboration, obviously. And then selfless, shameless plugs. If anybody wants to do a barrel pick, I do have the ability with one of the brands I work for. My whole point of the trip was to go find some really cool stuff, and we've got some cool barrels coming in, and those barrels can go online, and I have a lot of freedom and flexibility with what we can do with that particular brand. And that's not always the case. There's so many brands where you don't have a lot of freedom and flexibility. So anything that you guys want or are interested in, if there's mash bills that y'all are looking for, if there is particular distillate you're looking for, I got to taste some really cool stuff that I wish I could talk about. But obviously because of NDAs, I can't, but I hope we can buy those barrels soon, because A, they're freaking delicious, but B, it's going to be so much fun to get that stuff into a bottle.
Brandon Green hopped on earlier and looks like he's at work. That dude's always at work.
He is. He's got to support that expensive bourbon habit.
Matt Harris asked a question. I'm scrolling back to find it, but basically Matt Harris was asking, what like unique mash bills have you run across? And I guess he would be talking about kind of spitting out, was it 72, 13, 8, whatever. That probably didn't even equal 100, but you know, like what unique mash bills have you run across in some of your endeavors going out and tasting through some of these? Are there one or two that you could mention to be like, man, this one was, you know, 70% corn, 8% this, and 40% malted barley or whatever? Like, was there one that just kind of stood with you?
Well, so this is the part that I'm hesitant on right now, and I'll tell you why first. So let me preface the why. So I sent a whole bunch of for all the places that we were going, MGP Bardstown, the barrel broker houses we were going to. They would send me their inventory list, and I sent in what I wanted to sample. And when we got there, there was a lot of places I was super disappointed because a lot of the stuff that I wanted to buy was bought out from under us. And that's just part of the game, you know. Like if stuff's available, like you have to be ready to send payment. And a lot of times that might mean that you're buying stuff without getting to sample it. And you're buying a physical lot of barrels, you know, whether it's 10, 20, 50, 100. And that's not really some of the stuff that I'm looking to do. Like we personally, the brand, like we don't need, you know, hundreds of barrels that we haven't tasted through. But I'm hesitant to say specific mash bills because I don't want anybody going and trying to buy all of these out under me. But I will tell you that there are some mash bills that I didn't know that Green River made and that MGP made and that Bardstown made that I was very excited about. So there were some very
Okay.
specific things I was looking for. I mean, I'll be honest, I was looking for blue corn, and everybody sold the blue corn out from under us. And there was one place that had blue corn, but he won't sell me any. And he had it and he's making it. And he said he would distill it for me, but he wasn't going to sell me any blue corn. So I was super like heartbroken about that. But some of the barrels, and you know, you're a big Beam fan, and I'm not a big Beam fan at all. Like I've just never fallen in love with Beam. And I actually tasted a bunch of different Beam barrels and found some that I liked that excited me. And I was like, okay, like I can get behind this. Like this is fantastic. And
I've had some
so,
double oak beam that some of these other brands have done. I guess they brought it in and they double oaked
yeah,
it, but holy cow! And some Heaven Hill the same way.
yeah,
Blue
I'm
corn is a
telling you.
varietal for me though that is more missed than hit, but maybe I haven't had enough of it. Brandon brought over a Smoke Eye Hill,
Hmm.
non-age dated. I think it may have probably been the same one that Fred and them did with the Ascots. Fantastic. So I went and Chris Rivera had one, and I was like, "That's the same one. Let me get it," because he didn't want it. He said he didn't like it. He sent it to me. It was the 5-year age dated. It was absolutely terrible in my opinion. And then Still Austin, the red corn, blue corn, 5 or 6 year that came out last year, red corn all day long for me. The blue corn's more savory is what I'm finding, but there again, I've had that one Smoke Eye Hill that was blue corn that I liked, but I haven't tried a lot.
And I mean, it's interesting, right? Because the Smoke Eye Hill, it's MGP blue corn. And that was one of the places that I tried to get blue corn, and they didn't have any left. So,
Wow.
yeah. Now obviously, like I'm pretty diehard high wire fan, right? So we use a different red corn than what they're using at Still Austin. And I would love to see some of the actual age comparisons to get some 5-year Still Austin red corn and some 5-year Jimmy red corn side by side and
Mhm.
taste those. You know,
For sure.
Bloody Butcher in the past has disappointed me quite a bit. Like it's not one that I love personally. I would love to taste somebody that has some really good Bloody Butcher, but I have yet to really love some of the Bloody Butcher. So now I'll tell you, Wood Hat. So when we were going out to the holiday trip and we were coming through, we stopped at Wood Hat, and that dude is doing some crazy stuff. And I'm talking all different colors of corn that you can think of, and it was fantastic. Like I was really really interested in what he was doing, and I think he deserves a lot more attention than he's getting. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, he might have been at Bruzel Fest. I think Michelle said that she got to meet him there.
Okay.
But I was super impressed. I brought back a couple of bottles of their stuff, but really unique corns. And so,
I'd like to
I
try that.
yeah,
Philip over at Distillery Acadienne is doing some red, blue, green, maybe some other varietal of corn, but he's done a lot of experimental different corns as well. I don't know where he got the idea, but I'd be interested in trying them for sure.
the Wood Hat, like some of the stuff that we brought back, it's interesting because one of them is a pecan and oak finish. And so I had picked him up for Catherine, and she opened him and she was like, "This actually reminds me of Broad Branch," which I thought was interesting because you talk about the pecan note in Broad Branch.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, we probably tasted 11 or 15 different things at his spot that day, just tiny little taste to figure out we didn't have a ton of time. But I was super, super impressed. Like, I don't know how hard it is to get the stuff from Woodhat. I think he does have some stuff available online now.
Okay.
But yeah, you definitely got to check it out now. All right, Bloody Butcher for Jep the Creed. Now, I have had a Bloody Butcher from Jep the Creed, and I did not love it.
Did you have a red, white, and blue? Because that was the one that I have, and I kind of liked it.
I don't think I have had the red, white, and blue, but if somebody has like a fantastic, now listen, I'm always like, please don't send me samples. Like, I'm complaining all the time because I'm probably 150, 200 samples behind. But if somebody has a killer Bloody Butcher, like I need Bloody Butcher to be redeemed.
I'll see if I can find my Jep the Creed bottle. I got it in Memphis last year. I really liked it. Ended up doing a hunt in one of the stores, and then some guy came in, and I ended up selling him a bottle. And I was like, dude, if you don't like it, message me. I'll buy it from you. And he messaged me a few days later. He liked it, but I may go back to it tomorrow and not like it. So we'll see. But if I find it, I'll definitely set some aside for you. But yeah, man, the whole sample thing, like, I love it. I'm so thankful for everybody sending samples. But I literally have 3 drawers and 3 boxes. You know, the sample boxes. So you buy 72 bottles in? Well, the bottom layer of those 2 boxes. So I have 72 bottles over there in samples. Just found another one yesterday. It had about 15 in it. And these 3 drawers back here must have 200 in them. I just very rarely go to them. And I probably have 30 strung out on the counter, like just drowning in whiskey. I wish I had the time to taste through it all. But
yeah,
it's a lot.
Well, I mean, and think back a year ago, you probably had more time a year ago, right? Like, think about the bottles you get from distilleries now. And that's the hard part. If I think back 3 or 4 years ago, I loved getting samples in the mail. And we used to do what we would call Sample Sunday. And we would go pick 6 sample bottles and pour them and then split them between us and go through and, taste them and write notes and send them to the person who sent the samples to us, kind of as like a thank you, and to let them know that we were truly sitting down to go over them and enjoy them. Cool. But you just get so much now, like, it's impossible.
Man, I just poured the pick that from Jack Daniels that we did at the spot, and guys, that thing, it's a Tanyard Hill for whatever that means, but absolutely fantastic. I didn't know the significance of Tanyard Hill when we picked it. Only thing I knew was Coy Hill or Slop Hill, right? But
yeah,
man, really good whiskey. Well, Tiffany, I know you got to get to work tomorrow. Is there anything that you want to say in closing? And guys, I am so sorry. I've been terrible at moderating and getting to all the comments over there. Thank y'all so much, but I'm terrible at getting to everybody's comments. I do appreciate everybody tuning in, but in closing, Tiffany, do you have anything that you want to say?
No, I mean, obviously, like we said earlier, we really appreciate everybody being on here, and just want everybody to stop and think about, what do you need from us? Like, what can we do collectively? Like, how can we make a difference? When we think about some of the different things that are going on, from the way tariffs are impacting the big brands to how our smaller stores are being impacted and trying to help them get more allocations. Just think about the things that you want and reach out to us, reach out to people that are working in the industry, reach out to people, store owners, and just ask what you can do to make a difference. But also, if you guys need help with something else, like, make sure you let us know. I think between the 2 of us, we're probably 2 very caring individuals that are super plugged in with our communities, that really truly want to make a difference. And I can't thank everybody enough that showed up here tonight and listened to us babble on.
Well, I hope you have a good day tomorrow. Good week. Guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.